She humiliated me in front of our friends. I didn't fight back. I ended the show. If you want more real stories where respect matters more than romance, subscribe now and stay with the channel. It started at a birthday party, the kind with cheap balloons, loud music, and people shouting over each other like happiness was a competition. We were in Leo's kitchen because that's where every party ends up, leaning on counters, refilling cups, pretending we aren't watching each other. Emma stood beside me in a red dress that made everyone look twice. I stood beside her in the plain button-down she once called dependable. Someone asked the question people always ask when they've run out of small talk. So when are you two getting married? It was meant to be cute. A warm little nudge. I smiled because I thought we were fine. Emma laughed. Not a nervous laugh. Not a sorry laugh. A clean, bright laugh that cut through the music like a blade. Marriage, she said. No, not with him. The kitchen went quiet in that slow way where you can hear the refrigerator hum. Somebody coughed. Somebody else made a show of checking their phone. I felt every eye pivot toward me. The person who asked the question froze, then tried to rescue the moment. Why not? Emma shrugged like she was reviewing a menu. He's great, she said. Very reliable, very predictable. Then she took a sip and added, passion-wise, I'm not exactly inspired. A couple of people laughed because they didn't know what else to do with their faces. Leo's girlfriend stared at the floor like she could disappear into it. I didn't say anything. I didn't smile either. I nodded once, slowly, like she had commented on the weather. Inside my chest, something folded neatly and locked itself away. Emma looked at me, waiting. Waiting for me to protest, to tease back, to take the sting out of her cruelty by turning it into banter. I gave her nothing. She turned to the group and kept talking, and within seconds the kitchen noise restarted, forced laughter and fast topic changes, everyone pretending the moment hadn't happened even though it was now glued to the evening like spilled syrup. We drove home 20 minutes later. She acted normal, cheerful even. She talked about the playlist, the food, how Leo's cousin was weird. She asked if I wanted tacos tomorrow. She glanced at me a few times, checking for a reaction like a kid checking if a prank landed. I kept my eyes on the road. At a red light, she sighed. You're quiet. Everything okay? Yeah, I said. Just tired. She accepted it too quickly. That told me something important. She didn't think she'd crossed a line. She thought lines were for other people. At home, she kicked off her shoes and climbed into bed. I lay beside her and stared at the ceiling. I wasn't angry. Anger is loud and messy. I was alert. Alert is what you get when your brain stops bargaining and starts calculating. In the dark, I replayed the laugh, the words, the audience. And I realized it wasn't a one-off. It was the clearest version of a pattern I had ignored for years because the pattern wasn't constant. It was strategic. She didn't disrespect me in private. In private, she was sweet. In private, she needed me. In private, she told me I was her rock and her calm. In public, she used me. In public, she climbed higher by stepping on me, just enough to feel admired. The next week proved it. Monday, we met friends for dinner. I started telling a story about a project at work, and Emma interrupted mid-sentence. She corrected a detail that didn't matter, then laughed and said I was doing my boring logistics thing again. People laughed politely. I didn't react. Tuesday, she hosted a small work mixer at our place. She introduced me to her coworker as the guy who keeps everything running at home, her human checklist. She said it with a smile, like that made it cute. The coworker chuckled and said I must be a saint. Emma smiled bigger. I refilled drinks and watched. Wednesday, we did brunch with her friend group. Emma told a story about how I pack a bag for trips with a printed itinerary and backup chargers. She rolled her eyes and said, I'm basically a dad in a 32-year-old body. More laughter. I ate my eggs, calm and quiet. Thursday, we went to a small gallery opening because Emma wanted to network. A guy with a sharp haircut complimented her work and asked what I did. Emma answered for me. He moves boxes around and makes spreadsheets, she said. The guy laughed like it was charming. I nodded and said, yep, and let it sit. Emma didn't notice my restraint. She mistook silence for weakness. By Friday, I stopped trying to understand her and started planning around her. I opened a new bank account and redirected my paycheck. I pulled my credit report and made sure my accounts were clean. I reviewed our lease. My name was primary. The notice period was 30 days, and there was a clause about early termination if the primary tenant relocated for work. I didn't have to relocate, but my job had offices in another district, and HR would sign a letter if I asked. I didn't ask yet. I priced apartments near my office. I booked 3 viewings. I made a list of what was mine, not what was ours, what was mine. Documents, tech, clothes, the good kitchen knife set my father gave me, the watch my grandfather wore, the camera, the hard drives. I kept that list on my phone like a checklist for a clean break. Emma thought the week had passed and the party moment had evaporated. She laughed more. She got bolder. Saturday night, she brought me to a coworker's housewarming. The room was full of people who didn't know me. New audience. Fresh stage. We stood in a circle while someone asked the usual icebreakers. Where did you two meet? Emma told the story and made it sound like a joke. She said she used to date exciting men and then she upgraded to stable. She said it like it was a compliment. People chuckled. Someone said, "Hey, stability is hot." Emma leaned into it. "Sure," she said, "but sometimes you want fire, not a space heater." People laughed harder because the line was clever and they didn't have to live inside it. I looked at her and smiled once, politely. My smile wasn't forgiveness. It was confirmation. That night, back home, she kissed me like everything was normal, like she hadn't spent the evening selling me as a joke. She asked if I wanted to take a weekend trip soon. I told her maybe. I slept on the edge of the bed and woke up before sunrise. Sunday morning, while she slept, I packed. Not everything. The things on my list. I moved like I was doing inventory. Documents first. Passport, birth certificate, insurance cards. Then my laptop and hard drives. Then clothes I actually wore. Then my watch, headphones, camera. I left the stuff that could be replaced. I left the stuff that carried her fingerprints. By the time Emma woke up, I had 2 bags by the door and my coat on. She blinked at me like her brain was buffering. "What are you doing?" "I'm moving out," I said. She sat up and laughed. A small laugh, like she thought I was trying to scare her. "Stop. You're being dramatic." I looked at her, calm. No drama, just final. "I'm not being dramatic," I said. "I'm being precise." Her smile faded. "What are you talking about?" I gave her the shortest explanation I could, because the longer you explain, the more you negotiate. "You don't respect me," I said. "You perform disrespect. You do it in front of people. You turn me into a punchline to make yourself shine." "I'm done." She stared like I had spoken a foreign language. "You're leaving because of jokes." "They weren't jokes," I said. "They were rehearsed." She got angry fast, because anger is what people use when they can't control the narrative. "Everyone jokes," she snapped. "You're too sensitive." I shook my head. "No, I'm just done paying for your applause with my dignity." She swung from anger to fear in seconds. "Wait," she said. "You're serious?" "Yes." "Come on," she said, trying to soften her voice. "We can talk about this." I zipped my bag. Talking doesn't undo what you enjoyed doing. She stood up, now fully awake, and followed me to the door. "You're embarrassing me," she said, like I had committed a crime against her image. I turned back once. "You already did that," I said, "just not to yourself." Then I walked out. I didn't go to a friend's couch. I didn't go to my brother's. I went to the apartment I had viewed on Thursday. I had already put down a holding deposit. That afternoon, I signed the lease. I bought an air mattress, a lamp, and a set of towels. The first night in my new place, the quiet felt expensive. Not lonely. Clean. I slept for 8 straight hours. When I woke up, my phone was full of notifications. Calls from Emma, texts from Emma, then calls from numbers I recognized as her friends. I blocked Emma without reading the messages. I answered one friend because I knew what was coming. "What happened?" Zoe texted. "Emma says you stormed out over nothing." I replied once. She publicly mocked me repeatedly. I left. That's it. After that, I went back to living. Emma tried every lever she could reach. First she sent apologies. Then she sent anger. Then she sent guilt. She wrote that she was stressed. She wrote that she was insecure. She wrote that she was joking. She wrote that I should be a man and fight for her. I didn't reply. Silence is hard for manipulators because they can't shape it. On Thursday, Leo called. He sounded uncomfortable. "Hey man," he said. "Emma came by. She was crying. She said you left because she embarrassed you." I exhaled slowly. "She embarrassed me," I said. "In your kitchen, in front of everyone." Leo paused. "Yeah," he said. "I remember." Another pause. "You were quiet." "I wasn't quiet," I said. "I was done." Leo sighed. "For what it's worth," he said. "That was messed up." "Thanks," I said, and ended the call. A week passed, then 2. The gossip moved through our circles like smoke. It didn't stay in Emma's shape. People remembered things: the party, the dinner, the brunch, the way Emma spoke. Funny how memory wakes up when consequences arrive. Then the practical consequences hit her. Our rent had been split, but my name was primary and I had been paying more. When I left, I paid my share through the month and removed my autopay from the utilities. Her account declined a week later. She texted from a new number. "Please, we need to talk about bills." I blocked it. She showed up at my office lobby one afternoon. Security called me. "There's a woman here asking for you." I told them I wasn't available. I watched from the glass as she stood there, furious and helpless, then walked out. That night, a mutual friend told me Emma was telling people I couldn't handle a strong woman. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. She was still performing. She just didn't have the stage she wanted. The first time I saw her again was at a grocery store. 2 months after I left. It was a Tuesday evening, and I was picking up coffee and chicken. I turned into an aisle, and she was there, staring at a shelf of pasta like it had personally offended her. She looked thinner, not glamorous thinner, tired thinner. Her hair was pulled back, no red dress, no audience. When she saw me, her face shifted from shock to relief like I was oxygen. "Eli," she said. I kept my cart moving, slow. "Can we talk?" she asked, stepping closer. "Not here," I said. She swallowed. "I didn't mean it," she said quickly. "I was just joking. I didn't realize you took it so seriously." I stopped for 1 second and looked at her. "You realized?" I said. "You just didn't care." Her eyes watered. "That's not fair." I nodded once. Fair is not the standard. Respect is. She tried to reach for my arm. I stepped back. "I'm different now," she said. "I've been thinking. I've been in therapy. I miss you." I let the words hang there, then answered the only part that mattered. "Good," I said. "Keep going." She blinked. "So you forgive me?" I shook my head. "No, I'm glad you're working on yourself. But I'm not coming back to be your practice round." Her face collapsed. "You can't just throw away years," she whispered. I leaned in slightly, not to be intimate, but to be clear. "You threw them away for a laugh," I said. Then I walked to the checkout and paid for my groceries. After that, her attempts faded. Not because she healed, because the reality settled in. She couldn't pull me back with charm, and she couldn't push me back with shame. The story she told people stopped working because there was nothing for it to land on. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I didn't engage. I just lived. I furnished my apartment. I built routines. I started boxing again. I focused at work and got promoted into a role that came with a bigger paycheck and fewer meetings that could have been emails. I started dating, slowly, not as revenge, as proof that my life hadn't ended. On a third date with a woman named Priya, she asked me what I learned from my last relationship. I told her the truth in one sentence. If someone makes you smaller in public, they'll make you disappear in private. She nodded like she understood exactly what that meant. Months later, I heard Emma had moved in with a roommate. She had sold some of her things. She had been quieter at parties. Someone said she seemed humbled. Maybe she was. I didn't check. I didn't care. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger keeps a door open. Indifference locks it. Here's the lesson, if you want it, and it's simple. Disrespect doesn't always arrive as shouting. Sometimes it arrives as laughter. Sometimes it wears a smile and calls itself teasing. Sometimes it waits until there are witnesses so you can't respond without looking fragile. And if you accept it once, you teach them it is safe to do it again. So when someone turns you into a joke to feel bigger, don't argue. Don't explain. Don't compete for your own dignity. End the show. Leave quietly. Let the room notice the silence you created. Because the moment you remove yourself, the punchline dies. And what's left is the one thing they can't laugh their way out of. Consequences. After the grocery store, I stopped hearing about her for a while, which was the healthiest kind of distance. Then the ripple hit our wider circle. Leo hosted a game night 2 months later. I didn't go, but I heard what happened. Emma showed up and tried to act like she was fine. She made jokes. She flirted with attention. But someone new asked about me, and the room got awkward again. The same awkward, sticky silence from the kitchen. A friend told me Emma snapped at them later, asking why everyone was acting weird. Another friend finally said it out loud. Because you used him as a punchline. Emma tried to laugh it off. It was humor. It was teasing. The friend asked a simple question. If it was humor, why did you only do it when there were witnesses? Nobody had an answer for that. Not even her. That was the part she never prepared for. Performances fall apart when the audience stops clapping. She tried to rebuild her image by upgrading the relationship status with someone else. A co-worker named Dylan. Tall, loud, charismatic. The type of guy who talks over people and calls it confidence. She started bringing him to events quickly. Like speed could replace sincerity. For a month, it looked like it worked. Photos, captions, smiles. Then it didn't. Dylan didn't like being the accessory in someone else's redemption arc. He didn't want to be the proof that she was still desirable. He wanted to be worshipped. People like Emma and people like Dylan burn hot together because they both need mirrors. I heard he disappeared after a weekend trip, and Emma showed up at brunch the next week alone, pretending she wasn't shaken. Another friend told me she tried a different tactic after that. She went softer. She started telling people she missed how safe I was, how grounded, how I made her feel protected. It was a strange thing to hear, because safe had always been the word she used right before she made me smaller. Safe was the cage she decorated with compliments. I didn't correct anyone. I let her say it. Let her realize how empty it sounded without me there to carry it. Meanwhile, my life kept moving in quiet ways that were louder than any argument. I signed up for a certification course I'd been putting off. I started taking early morning walks with a podcast instead of late night scrolling. I bought a real bed frame. I stopped eating like I was always in a rush. One Saturday, I hosted my own small dinner with 2 coworkers and Priya. Nothing fancy. Chicken, salad, cheap wine. At some point, one of my coworkers asked if my last relationship had taught me to be less trusting. I shook my head. It taught me to be more honest. Honest about what respect looks like. Honest about what it doesn't. Honest that love doesn't survive on private sweetness if public contempt is the price. Priya listened quietly, then said something that stuck. A partner should be proud to be seen with you. not entertained by cutting you down. That sentence landed like a stamp. Approved. Filed. The next time Emma tried to reach out, it was through an old shared streaming account. A profile name changed to a message. "Can we please talk?" I changed the password and deleted the account. It wasn't petty. It was maintenance. Cutting off small access points so the past couldn't leak into the present. Around the 6-month mark, I ran into Leo at a coffee shop. He looked guilty before he even sat down. I told him to relax. "I'm not mad at you," I said. "You didn't say it. You just hosted the kitchen it happened in." He laughed weakly. He said Emma had been asking about me. He said she still didn't understand how fast it ended. I explained it in the simplest terms I could. Because it wasn't fast. It was overdue. I told him the truth I'd been avoiding because it felt too sharp. The party didn't end the relationship. It revealed it. Leo nodded slowly, like he was seeing his own past mistakes in my words. Before he left, he said something that surprised me. "She misses the version of you that would swallow it." I nodded. That's what she actually lost. Not me. The version of me who accepted being treated like a prop. That was the last real conversation I had about her. After that, she became background noise. A name that didn't change my pulse. A memory that didn't change my direction. Here's what I want anyone listening to understand. The first time you let someone disrespect you in public, you usually tell yourself it's harmless. It's just words. It's just a joke. You're being mature by not reacting. But there is a difference between maturity and self-abandonment. Maturity is staying calm while you address a problem. Self-abandonment is staying calm while you accept contempt. The line between them is your action afterward. If you swallow it and move on, you teach them it's safe. If you observe it and leave, you teach yourself you're worth more. Emma laughed at me in front of everyone because she thought I needed her more than she needed me. She thought my silence was weakness. She thought the room would always laugh with her. She was wrong on all 3 counts. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her back. I didn't drag her online. I just removed the one thing her performance depended on. My presence. That's the consequence people never plan for. Not the argument. The absence. Not the fight. The door closing. Not a dramatic scene. A clean exit. If someone needs an audience to disrespect you, they don't deserve an audience to watch you stay. End the show. Leave. Let the silence do the work. One more detail matters. People sometimes ask why I didn't call her out in that kitchen. Why I didn't defend myself right there. The answer is simple. Defending yourself in the moment is still playing the game. It tells them their behavior deserves a debate. It gives them drama to feed on. Emma would have used any reaction to frame me as insecure, sensitive, controlling, humorless. She wanted me to jump so she could label the jump. I refused to move on her command. The only label she couldn't survive was irrelevant. And that is what leaving makes you to someone who needs control. Irrelevant. The night I moved into my new apartment, I stood by the window with the city lights blinking like distant signals. I thought about how many times I'd tried to earn basic respect with extra effort. Better plans, more money, more patience, more understanding. None of that works when the person across from you enjoys feeling superior. Respect isn't a reward for good behavior. It's the baseline. If the baseline isn't there, the structure collapses sooner or later. I just chose sooner. Priya and I didn't end up as some perfect ending. Life isn't that neat. We dated for a while. It was good. Then work pulled her to another city, and we ended it kindly. But what stayed with me wasn't the relationship. It was the proof that calm love exists. Love that doesn't need an audience. Love that doesn't require jokes at your expense to keep attention. And that is how you know you did the right thing. Not because the other person suffers. Not because you win the friend group. You know because your nervous system finally relaxes. You stop flinching at laughter in the next room. You stop translating compliments into insults. You stop waiting for the next public cut. You become whole again. Emma wanted to feel powerful for a moment. She got it. Then she lost the person who made her life stable enough to perform. That's the math. And it always adds up.